Hi, thanks for watching. Okay, this is a follow-up. This is like part two of these videos where I'm talking about the emotionality bias that I see in psychology and with regard to how we think of personality disorders and how what I feel would be a better emphasis would be on engagement, putting engagement as a priority as opposed to emotionality. Now, I can already anticipate I can already anticipate the major criticism that people are going to try to propose. And I need to take responsibility because what I'm saying is nuanced, okay? Nuanced because I know as well as everybody that you can use getting busy and getting engaged and getting busy, busy, busy as a way to avoid feeling. I know that. I know that. Okay. I understand that. Let me try to explain my position so that we don't fall into the straw man. Okay, let's not do the straw man. Let's do the steel man. Okay. All right. I'm aware that you can have pseudo engagement with the world. It's pseudo engagement because what you're really doing is you're managing how you feel. You're trying to avoid feeling. Okay. And when you try to avoid feeling, that's preoccupation with feeling. Okay. Let's be very clear. Okay. When you try to avoid having emotions, you are wrapped up in how you feel because you're managing how you feel. Okay. And so that's putting a priority on how you feel, and you're putting that at the expense of your engagement. Okay. So your engagement becomes a pseudo engagement because it's really not fundamentally putting a priority on being engaged in the world. Your priority is on not feeling, which is a way of managing how you feel. Okay. So let's be very careful. Whatever we do, it's going to be nuanced because there's ways that focusing on engagement can be indirectly a way of managing your feeling. Okay. So let's be aware of that. All right. So I'm proposing the sophisticated, the nuanced approach where you're really getting engaged and you're actually disregarding, in a way, you're sort of subordinating your concern of how you feel. Okay. Because now this is very important. Okay. Because the idea is that we want to get into a place, get meditative, okay, and decide that we're going to start changing our priority on how we feel in any way, okay? So, in other words, if for me it's comfortable not to have a lot of emotions, okay, that's a comfort issue that I need to deal with. I'm putting my comfort, I'm putting my senses, how I feel, I'm putting that as a priority, okay? And the idea is that we want to start changing the priority. Okay. So we start just being actually engaged in the world. Okay. As our priority. Okay. So that the idea is that we have to be aware that we may have a motive to maybe not feel so much. Okay. And we need to sort of explore that and sort of start disregarding that motive. Okay. And really put our intention into just getting involved in the world without regard to how uncomfortable we may feel, okay, or how much we may feel, how much we may not feel. Let that all kind of slide and put more of the focus on just being engaged. So it is kind of rearranging our intentionality and our sense of priority, okay. And those of us who maybe aren't aware that we use getting busy, busy, busy as a way to, we get really engaged in all kinds of activities and stuff. And it's a way not to feel, okay, we need to just be honest. There has to be an honesty. Okay. And we have to, there's not going to be any kind of recovery if we can't come to that honest place of wanting to be better as a person. Okay. So there has to be a point, kind of a magical point where we start to almost have like a pre-recovery where we start to see that there's something that could be better in our lives, So I guess I'm just encouraging people to look at their lives and to see if maybe in some indirect way, even though we try to be unemotional or we try to maybe not have emotions, how maybe deep down we are managing how we feel by maybe not feeling enough. Okay. And indirectly, when we get really busy in the world, what we're really doing is we're just avoiding having to actually feel things. Okay. So that's where the honesty comes in. Okay. And so what I'm saying is that, it should be pretty obvious. I mean, if you understand this, it should be pretty obvious. But basically, what I'm saying is that we need to sort of come to Jesus a little bit, kind of kind of get real with ourselves and see how even in our lack of emotions, okay, how we may be trying to manage our comfort zone, let's say, okay, and how we may put our comfort zone management, the management of our comfort, okay, not being uncomfortable, being in places we don't feel comfortable, we may be putting that ahead of actually dealing with the world, okay? And a lot of us may be guilty of that. A lot of us who may be very professional, who may work a lot, who may have a very dedicated profession, we may unconsciously be escaping into that business activity or that professional activity as a way of sort of disengaging in a way from our emotional realities or whatever. So that's a maybe more subtle point, but I'm going for the more subtle point. Okay, I'm proposing that kind of engagement where you're sort of avoiding emotions. I'm proposing that may be a pseudo engagement, where the real priority is sort of not feeling enough, and that's a way of managing how we feel. Okay, so this is really a challenge for people to be very honest with themselves. Okay, and to experiment. Okay, with maybe if we're in that habit, of getting real busy to avoid feeling, okay, maybe to just kind of change our intention so that as we deal with our affairs and as we deal with the people and the circumstances and the aspects of our environment, our community, what's around us, okay, the things that we have to do, the things that need to be addressed with responsibility, okay, as we engage in the world, okay, we have to look at our intent. Are we trying to unplug from things that are uncomfortable? Are we using this to manage our feelings? Is this becoming a feeling management process where we're no longer really primarily focusing on just being engaged in the world? We have to look at that. It's the priority. Okay. And then if that is true, and if we see that, then we have to really re-intensify our priority, that our priority is to be engaged in the world and to feel that priority. Okay. And to get our hands off the levers and the steering wheels of our feelings. Just let the feelings be unorchestrated. Okay, so it may take practice, but we have to play with our intention. Okay, and sort of get our hands off the levers, get our hands off the knobs and the steering wheels of orchestrating how we feel. Not control and not orchestrate how we feel, not be concerned with how we feel. Okay, it's not putting away and avoiding feeling. It's just losing the concern for how we feel, accepting that we may or may not feel, just getting our hands off that orchestration and just getting engaged in the world as a priority. Okay, so I hope that helps address what may be the straw man critique of what I'm saying, where, oh yeah, you're just getting real busy because you don't want to feel, or that'll happen. You get so busy, you're going to be avoiding your feelings. No, I want this idea of getting engaged in the world to be subtle enough, okay, that we actually are dealing with that issue, okay. And so when I talk about getting engaged in the world, I'm not saying it as an alternative to feeling, okay. I'm saying it as an alternative to orchestrating and managing how we feel. Okay. So I think that, feelings, in a way, that's the part of us that I think is almost a better not touched and not talked about, because I think if we just don't think about it, I think our feelings will be more natural. Okay. Now, when I say don't think about feelings, I'm not saying distance ourselves from feelings. Okay. I'm not saying we want to like avoid feelings. I'm just saying don't be concerned about feelings. Okay. Allow our concern to be focused on our engagement in the world. Okay. And so what we're doing is we're not pushing feelings away. What we're doing is we're taking our hands off the levers and the steering wheel of feelings, and we're letting it just be the feelings, you see. So when people often, when they get real busy, what they're doing is they're trying to avoid the feeling. Okay. So in a way, that's their way of managing their feeling. Okay. So I'm encouraging people to stop managing how they feel. Okay. And just get engaged in the world with the intention of just being engaged in the world, not in avoiding anything. Okay. In other words, let the feeling be as it will. Okay. And I really think the healthiest feelings are feelings that are not managed. I think management is to be in the world. Okay. In other words, all of our management faculties are to be in how we engage with the world. Okay. And get that engagement. Don't operate on our feelings that way. Okay. In other words, we have faculties of management. Okay. We have faculties to deal with and engage with things, but that should not be touched on ourselves. That we should not use that machinery on our feeling. Okay. We should let the feelings just be what they will and use all of our management faculties to actually engage with the world. Okay. So it's like a rearrangement of our management faculty. Okay. And so, yes, it is true. People are guilty. They're guilty of getting overly managed in the world as a way of also managing their feelings. Okay. We are guilty of that. Okay. So what I'm proposing is even getting over that. Okay. And I consider a person who gets overly management oriented, overly managing, getting busy, getting involved in a lot of work and a lot of, activities as a way of avoiding feelings. I consider that to be emotionality. Okay. Because that's managing feelings. All right. So I hope people can see, there is subtlety, obviously, because you can appear to do one thing, but you're really doing the other. You can appear to be really engaged in the world, and really what you're doing is you're managing your feelings. Okay. That's the honesty we have to come to really look at, what are we really doing? Okay. And we have to really have a deep look, and then we have to reevaluate and re-implement our engagement in the world and our intentionality. Okay. To get our hands off, to get our management off our actual feelings. Feelings should be sort of like a free space that should not be under management. Okay. What our management should be is in our actual engagement with the world. Okay. And we need to trust that if we're well engaged in the world and we're engaging with our responsibilities and our situation, okay, that we should trust that our feelings will probably be okay. And I believe if we allow ourselves to focus truly on being engaged in the world, I think our feelings will actually become very healthy. Okay, I think that's a belief. That's a belief that I have. And I think really the best emotions are emotions that are not orchestrated or managed. Okay, so all of our management, I believe, should be intentionally directed to our engagement with the world. Okay, and that will allow sort of like a free space and will sort of liberate the emotional space to just be what it will. Okay, so I hope that this is a clarification of my position, so that people can understand that I'm not advocating a cartoonish interest in putting priority on engagement, where somehow in that cartoon, what we're really implying is sort of a distancing or an avoidance of the emotional world. I never said that. Okay. I know I could be seen to say that because I think that through the lens of psychology's emotionality bias, they are going to make a straw man of something that I do, because that's a symptom of them being naively biased in favor of an emotionality that is not authentic. Okay. And so what I'm proposing is being authentically engaged in the world. Okay. And not using it as a way of managing feelings. Okay. And letting the feeling space be free to be what it will. Okay. Where our focus is on being engaged in the world. So I hope this is a clarification of my position, so that I'm not going to be seen as anti-emotion. Okay. What I am against is anti-emotionality bias. Okay. And I do think that our orchestration, our management, and our faculties of dealing with things should be addressed to our engagement in the world. Okay. And leaving the emotionality space just free and open to be its native, natural, whatever it's going to be. Okay. So in other words, that's a liberation of the emotional space by not managing it and not focusing on it. Okay. So I hope that helps. And I know it's a delicate topic, because for whatever reason, we've got this terrible, almost religious emotionality bias, this overprotectiveness of emotion. But really what we're really doing is we're getting wrapped up in emotion. And I think that's a narcissism. I think that's a cultural narcissism. I think it's a narcissism in psychology. And we're avoiding the real answer, which is to get your hands off and get your attention off the emotion, let that be free, and get all your orchestration and executive management faculties focused on getting engaged in the world, not as an avoidance. Just let the emotions just be what they are. Okay. Avoidance is a management of an emotion. Okay. So just let things be and get engaged in the world. Okay. Without any agenda that has to do with how I feel. Okay. And then the feeling will just be liberated. Now that takes a lot of effort, because you have to work with your intentions. Okay. You have to be very honest. And so honesty, is going to be very important, but you can't avoid what's the most important to being healthy, which is to get engaged in the world. Okay. Can't get around that. All right. And using the straw man of how some people get busy as a way of avoiding feelings, that is not going to take away the fact that we have to get engaged in the world as a priority in order to be healthy as a person, in order not to feel separated, in order not to feel alienated. Okay. Because I guarantee, if you're alienated in any way from the actual realities of the world, you are going to feel shame, whether your parents told you to feel shame or whether they didn't tell you to feel shame. Okay. Or you'll feel pride that's a false pride. Okay. And you'll have a false self-esteem. And even if you feel good, you're feeling good in an inauthentic way. Okay. So even your good feelings will not be healthy. Okay. You have to I'm sorry to say this, but you have to get engaged with the world, truly engaged in the world, in order to have authentic anything. Okay. So that I wish psychology would take away their emotionality bias and get more in an engagement bias. Okay. And really see that as the key to getting healthy. And then the emotions, you don't have to manage and orchestrate and fuss around. If you're really, truly, authentically engaged in the world, your emotions will be fine. Okay. Unless you have a true emotional disorder. But in order to find out if you have a true emotional disorder, you have to first get engaged in the world, and then you'll know. Okay. And even people who do have emotional disorders should still be engaged in the world, because I think that does allow some natural metabolic processes that help to stabilize. Okay. And then if you're still having emotional problems at that point, then you need psychiatry. Okay. But I really believe that, as far as psychology goes, I think the bias needs to get away from emotionality and into engagement. Okay. In the sophisticated, authentic sense of the word, engaged in the world, not with an agenda to manage feelings, but just engaged in the world, leaving all of our agenda, taking away all of our agendas around feeling, and letting feelings just be what they will. So really appreciate that. And thanks for watching.